Hello, I'm James Burgess. I'm going to talk about God, or how I perceive God anyway. It's not an old white man with a long beard. It's not a man. It's energy, all of it. Now, the way I see this is because I think in 3 dimensions. I see a sphere, a ball of energy, which is bigger than the Earth. And in fact, it's not really a ball. It has no end. It just attenuates. It gets lesser and lesser in intensity in my perception, the further away from me it gets. But I'm surrounded by this ball of amorphous energy just there. And when I try and focus on it, it crystallizes into something else. But when I, in meditation, just lose my mind, that takes some practice, of course, but you get to a point in meditation where you can just allow the mind not to be. It's hard to understand unless you've done it. And there are stages. The grasping mind that we're using to talk to each other it needs something hard, needs something real, or it just can't function. If you learn through meditation to surrender the gross mind, the monkey mind, the grasping mind, you surrender that and you move into this subtle mind, then you get a different sense of what is. There's no real things, no real crystallized versions of reality. But you can go deeper than that. There's a level of mind called the very subtle mind, which is just, there's almost no sense whatever of existence. You're certainly not aware of yourself as self. So if you can actually get to that level in meditation where you really can lose the mind, then you know about this field of energy. That's what it is. That's how you know God. Is when you turn self off for a moment. And it is only a moment. As long as we've got a physical body, we can't turn off the sense we have of self, because the heart is beating and the lungs are breathing and there are phenomena to be sensitive to. And those imperatives stop us from turning off the mind. However, if we get to that sense of this is it, if we can even think this is it, then it's not it. That's the whole point. If we can think, then we don't know God. We can only really know God when we surrender the self. And this is not a concept. This is not a philosophy or moral teaching. It's not, if you're egotistical, you're not going to be a good person. That's another thing. That's morality. That may or may not have validity in your version of reality. But that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about the mystic and the mystical imperative to know what you can of God. And it is found by losing a sense of self. The the process that we go through in perceiving our mode of, the technical mode of perception, requires us to focus 3 aspects of mind. Now, the normal mind is very much to do with self-awareness, the conscious mind. I know that I have a body. I know that I'm in an environment, and so on. That's the awareness. We have a different operation of the mind, which we all know when we go to sleep. We have different things going on that's very definitely personal, but it's not something that we can bring into waking life. So that area of life, which is non-conscious, is either superconscious, I think that's the correct term, or unconscious. So let's talk about the superconscious. This is where you have a glimpse of what the soul is, what the purpose of the soul is, and what the soul wants you to do. I speak figuratively, that the soul doesn't want anything, and the soul doesn't want events to occur in any specific way. The soul is just a bunch of qualities, shall we say, that's one way of looking at it, that seeks to grow. Like everything alive wants to grow. It doesn't want to grow. Everything alive just grows by definition. That's what life is. So the soul and its qualities just grow. And so the soul's journey on earth is to do with growing qualities. Not concerned with how that happens at all. Just wants qualities such as love and peace and clarity and artistic expression and inspiration and all these soul qualities. They just want to develop, and our experience of being on earth gives us the opportunity to develop those qualities, and otherwise we could not develop them quite as far, quite as quickly. The earth plane is fast track for soul evolution. So that's what I'm calling the superconscious. Now, the other aspect of the mind is the unconscious, by far the most influential in setting up our life journey. The unconscious mind is given to us by all of the processes that we've experienced in life which has not entered our consciousness. So most of us are unaware of the heart beating. Most of us are unaware that we have habits and emotional patterns that we do not control. Most of us have been strongly influenced as babies by parents putting their preferences and limitations onto us. In their responses, let alone their teachings, they just respond to a loud noise by being afraid, and the baby notices that that's what happens, and so a loud noise makes the baby afraid, and it grows up to be afraid of loud noises. On the unconscious level, we flinch against loud noises, and that's not a conscious decision. Same with the eyes. The eyes blink when a dust particle approaches us. Not a conscious decision. Almost everything that we do is unconscious to some extent. Now, creating a version of reality requires us to operate on these three levels of mind. And these three levels of mind are almost never in alignment. There's a teaching the true teaching of Christ. It is said that occurred in the Aramaic language, not in the temple language of Hebrew. Now, the Aramaic language has got these lovely ideas, and if you can align the higher self with the sense of self and the lower self, all in alignment, all these three, that state is called inanna in Aramaic. And ina means I, inanna is like I and I, rather similar to the Rastafarian point of view, as I understand it. So when all of the bits and pieces of your I-ness, yourself, are in alignment, then you're in the flow. And you don't try and make it up. You don't try and do something that your mind just decided is a good idea. It just occurs through you, and you observe it very, very contentedly because you're in this state of grace. That's how we access this field of energy, which I'm calling God. So, moving into meditation, deep meditation, we're not talking about 5 minutes or an hour once a day or once a week. We're talking about on retreat, where you get up in the morning and you pray all day until it's time to go to bed, and you stop for a few hours, and then you get up the next day and you pray all day again, and you carry on like that. 40 days is the normal requirement. So I don't want to discourage anyone. That's quite a commitment, but I'm talking about the fact that this is the highest possible achievement that any individual can accomplish on earth. It's going to be difficult, isn't it? And it takes that time to do for most people. The 40 days is said to be the time you need to do to commit to this. Now, if you get there somehow, whether you can do it more quickly than that or whatever, if you can get to that state of just knowing God, and typically I think it's just a glance, it's just a moment or two, perhaps a minute, perhaps not that long. For most people, I think there are mystics that can hold it for longer than I can. But I've had the privilege of touching that state where I just, I got it. And in that state, there's this sense of omniscience and omnipotent. You feel to be all-knowing and all-powerful. And it's kind of tempting to see if that's true. And as soon as you've actually surrendered to that temptation to try and demonstrate that I could have anything I want now, you've lost it, because the ability to know God is given to us by this process of turning off the sense of self. And it is only the sense of self that wants something particular to happen. God doesn't. God is just this absolutely uncommitted infinity of energy, like a kaleidoscope of colors and sounds and energies and feelings. It's just, there it is, the infinite realm of potential. What do you want to do with it? You can do anything you want with it. You can turn it into an artwork, a beautiful melody or a picture or a behavior, or you can do whatever you want with it. There is free will, and it's not that God can take free will away from us. God doesn't have any will. God is just energy, uncommitted, infinite energy available to respond to our decision about what we expect to happen next. Therefore, in that sense, God is feminine. In that sense, the decision about what we want to happen and what we expect to happen is gifted to those of us that have thought this through. Food for thought there. If you know that God is simply able and willing immediately to respond to our expectation, then you discipline your mind. You start to think positively. You start to only allow your mind to focus on optimistic outcomes. Imagine that this field of infinite energy is best given the metaphor of a mirror on the wall. Put a mirror on the wall and just do this exercise. Look at that mirror. Just stand there looking at the mirror and have a neutral glance. And then see what happens. Try and hold that neutrality of glance for a long time. You won't be able to. At some point you're going to move one way or the other. Now if you move towards fear or anger, what will happen is that the mirror will become fearful and angry. And that will increase your fear and anger because there's somebody fearful and angry looking at you in the mirror. You don't know it's a mirror. But if instead of neutrality, you tend towards humor or compassion even, then there's a softening of the features. And then because somebody soft of features is looking at you, you become more so. So that's what a mirror does to you, a glass mirror on the wall. Well, that's what God does to you. Exactly that. That's the best metaphor I can come up with, and it's a good metaphor. And all that you have to do, even with coronavirus going on at the moment as I speak, even with that, all that you need to do is to expect everything to be fine, to see the light, and to move your features towards softness and joy and trust. And there is no choice. There is no choice in the matter. God must respond exactly according to your expectations. That's the law. That's the universal law. That's how all of this world is built, on that law. God simply responds to our expectations. So what we have to do is to expect good things. Now, that's called faith. Have faith that the future's better than the past. That's enough. Hold that all the time, in every single breath, in every single exchange with another person, every single thought that you have about yourself. Don't ever let go of the fact that you're a person of faith. That's your law. That's your comfort. That's your insurance policy. You don't need anything else. You want faith. You have to develop faith, and there is no end to the extent to which you can develop faith. And we're taught that Jesus had pretty much the best version of faith ever taught. So he could walk on water. He could do anything else. You could fly if you want, presumably. I mean, well, our expectations are very deep within us, and I'm expecting to fall to the ground if I jump off a wall. It's very difficult to get rid of that expectation. I expect to feel hunger if I don't eat for a while. That's a deeply rooted expectation within me that I just have not the will to overcome. But had I the will to overcome it, had I the faith to really practice what I believe, then these things they must be in my grasp. They must be. That's how it is. So put aside your ideas that God is an authority that's wagging its finger at you. That's not true. That's nonsense. Put aside your idea that you can do good or bad. That's not nonsense, but it's culturally related. Within your culture, the people around you, the reality that you've created, yeah, there's good and bad, and that's really important. But know this, it always changes in time. It's not a given, it's not a fixed, it's not real, not really. And it always changes according to geography too. What you think is good here and now isn't good in the future and isn't good in another place. It's a local phenomenon. So morality is simply the courtesy of community interaction, which is meaningful. Yes, we do good, we do bad, and we need to have implications of that. Good gets rewarded, bad gets punished. That's how society works. It's not wrong, but it ain't God. That's not God. What God is the mirror of responding to your expectations. Bye-bye.